Alright, so this is the second video I'm making on Villalva. This time we're going to go over 4 games he played. Only one of them is a win. But the other 3 games really show something I think he does quite frequently and really effectively that other players do not do. So I think it's a really interesting thing to explore. And 2 of them are ties against me, and 1 of them is a tie against Wavey. So this is against strong opposition, where I think he took what was a potentially difficult spot replying to a starter and found really interesting ways to steer the game to at least safety and possibly even better. So I really like how he handled those games, and I want to look at them. But first, I want to look at a game he played against one of the players who, by my stats, is as hard to beat as anyone on the whole site right now, and that would be Piggyman. Just a tremendously difficult player to beat, and I think Villalva beat him in a really nice game. And so he started with 7-7-2-2 and 7, which is sort of the automatic move to make. It is safe. But as soon as we look deeper, we see a clear problem. Villalva is going to be the red player. That problem being, Piggy can set up against it both ways. But to do so, the top card can't set up for 4. The next card needs a 4 facing left, which he does not have. But these 2 cards need a 7 facing left. He has 2 ways that do it, and 1 way sets him up both ways on Villalva's starter. So if Villalva had gone into this not having seen this and not being ready for it, it would be a move that I think would be a very clear mistake, right? Piggy now has both sides of the starter covered. Villalva has one, but not the other. And so this could easily be a really terrible spot. And what's cool is he had seen this, planned ahead for it, and found a really cool idea after. And I think that's something that's really a hallmark of Villalva's play, is seeing things that have a problem or have a reason not to do that might be immediately off-putting and stop you thinking there, and keeps going and has ideas in those kinds of positions. And this is the sense in which I think he makes unusual moves and surprising, uncomfortable moves for opponents, is because he looks for particulars in somewhat unusual lines, or lines that other good players would check but immediately dismiss and stop looking at because they see, oh, Piggy can set up both ways against it. Those look like pretty good setups. This is not the kind of position I want to aim for. And instead, he has a plan. So what he says there is, I went with a fake safe starter, expecting him to set that card in 5 to get combos in both 4 and 8 with the 7-6-6s. I call it fake because I knew he had that potential combo with that card in 5. I just didn't make that move as a safe starter he couldn't immediately flip, but I wanted to make it look like that was my intention. Then I set up that card in 1, so I could also have combos from 4 and 8, but with only 1 card, which was Elastoid. And that is to say, his next move is 5-5-7-2 in 1. And I think this is a very creative idea. I've seen Turds once have a similar idea of a starter intending this follow-up. In his match with Delial, he had this idea, though he didn't follow it up. A very similar idea. But a nice way of spotting. He has both squares. He continues. Oh, no. We won't read what he continues with yet. But I would add that 7 facing in from the left makes it really hard for Piggy to play in 4 safely, right? The normal structural response is you just want to stick a card in 4, and he has only 1 card that isn't immediately vulnerable to combos. And so it's a very tough position to play. I think this kind of move looks obvious, but Elastoid 6-2-6-7 is so dominant that this wins on the spot. Any move in 8 is just going to be met by here. This card's safe. Elastoid is guaranteed to take 2 cards on the last turn. Really nice idea. There is not a save for Piggy here. Elastoid is just too strong. It's also easy to imagine, lines like this here, where this here is a winning reply, guaranteeing a triple capture at the end for Elastoid if needed. So some really clever lines, really, really nice vision, seeing this is the only way Piggy can grab that safe spot, and I can set up Elastoid so beautifully here. And it's so specific too, it so needs these exact cards to work. And I think Villalva often makes moves that I think from a kind of general structural or positional sense are a little offbeat or even not even poor. but the specifics of them often carry them out to being good or great moves. And I think this is a really cool example. This opening sequence and making the obvious move against it just lose is incredible. In fact, in this position, Piggy only has one move that doesn't lose. And it's not super easy to find, but Piggy does find it. He plays the best move, 2, 6, 6, 7, and 2. And here Villalva says, that move in 2 was unexpected, but I kind of knew I had a win in 4 by locking the cards in 1 and 4. He played in 7, which was most... okay. So he thinks this position was winning. It turns out Piggy does have a save here, but it's really hard, and again, very specific to find. 4 moves left is, of course, difficult but possible to calculate, but this is a very weird one where a lot of blindnesses come into play and make it hard to solve. So the first obvious move to try is safety. And safety doesn't work. Elastoid is too good at the end. Elastoid's going to flip however many it needs to win. And so then there's the move Piggy tried, going in 8, and I think Villalva finds a very clever move again as his way of winning, where again, Elastoid is just so good, and he sets it up so nicely in this game, just repeatedly. The save is actually the really incredible move here, the point being, if Elastoid grabs immediately, this combos back just enough to get the tie. If Elastoid goes here immediately, then you're left with a card you don't particularly want, and this is just enough to tie. And if we get rid of this, he's kept the 7 down, right? The point of this 7 down sequence is it is safe, but it means you won't have safety the next turn because you don't keep that 7 down. By having the 6 down, but surviving the immediate capture, we now do survive in the similar line because of the 7 down. So that would have been a really hard tie to find. Piggy did not end up finding it, and Villalva takes a really well-deserved win. I think he played awesome here. I think the move 1 to 3 sequence is really good, and it leads directly into going in 5. He finds a really elegant win in 3 at the end. Just very nice play. All around, think this is a sweet game. This was the game he specifically highlighted when I was talking to him as a game he thought he played great. I think he played fantastically too. I think this is creative, special, really precise. I certainly can't point to any mistakes he made, and I don't particularly think there are better tries. I think this was just a fantastic way to apply pressure to an opponent that makes so few losing mistakes, and got him into a very difficult position where he did. So I think this is a just superb win, and it's the win from Villalva I really wanted to highlight. There are some other nice wins, but he's right, this one is gorgeous. So I'm going to open up another game. Sorry, your screen went black there. This one, no plus wall in the rules. This is a tie versus Wavey, and this is going to be a sequence of 3 games where I just show him replying a little differently to corner starters than I think is standard. So this is going to be our second game, and got to boot up the position. One moment. I'm mostly organized, but it still takes a sec. All right, so we got our position, and Wavey starts with a strong corner. And he has some ways to address this. And I think, the fact that 2, 4, 7, 5 can take immediately means a lot of players' instincts would be find some move in 7 that sets up against 8. Not really an amazing way to do so. This card does so, but we have no way to take it back from 4. Not really many setups there. So maybe the next square you'd look is somewhere like 5. Can I set up against 8 from 5? Or do I just want to take immediately, force the action, or do I go in a far corner or a far side? And I think Villalva finds something really different to do here, which is just, okay, I can't deal well with that corner, so have it. I'm going to build out where I have my greatest safety. And this is to take an immediately safe move, so this move may have seemed obvious because Wavey indeed cannot take it, but we're going to see him do it even when this card next to their starter is capturable, so I think it fits into that general genre of him doing so. And it also sort of forces the block in 6 immediately, because we blocked to the side we couldn't take, now we have a threat in the side we could. So Wavy blocks his starter in, which makes sense. Wavy's going to play good this game. This is not a, like, look at Wavy get crushed game. This is, look at Villalva take what looks like a difficult position and find a nice way to handle it. And Wavy specifically sets up 5. But the thing about Villalva's play is he's been incredibly comfortable in the games I've seen to just block 5 and be happy and play from there. And so he just blocks 5. Make sure his card in 8 is safe. Interestingly, he doesn't follow what I call the principle of 2 weaknesses. This idea of if you have one direction facing out that's weak and another that's strong, they take the weak side, you can't retake the strong side, it's trouble. But he, again, is very specific, right? If we look at this position, let's say his card in 8 was weak to 5 but not to 7. But they're not going to play 5 because he has a threat in 6. They're going to block 6, and that's going to give him time to block 5, right? Sort of same thing here. There are very few lines where the first turn player will have first access to 4. He's probably going to get first access to 4, and he's probably going to put 2, 4, 7, 5 there. So it effectively, he sees it as only one weakness, but that one weakness doesn't matter because the turn order of the game will very rarely be such that the opponent can use that weakness. So what matters is he'll have time to block in that weakness, and his opponent will not be able to take the strength. Wavy actually just goes for it immediately, playing the kind of anti-positional but wholly reasonable move here, saying I can grab that card. Villalva takes back. Wavy sets one last little trap because his 7 can capture anything put in 1, and it can plus a card with a 4 to the left put in 2, and Villalva finds the tie. And we tie. And I think it's a nice, solid game, very solid. I don't think you always need to show someone's wins to show what they're doing that's interesting. I think lots of times ties can happen to be the games that show ideas the best. And I really like this move in 5 because to a kind of standard understanding of triple triad, a move that leaves out one weakness and one strength when you can't recapture the strength should be a mistake, should be a serious mistake. Should be something they can grab, but he has such a good feel for where they're going to have to specifically go. There's no sequence where they get to kind of go for before he does. For instance, let's put in a line. Well, the problem is for them to get to 4 first, they kind of have to start in 3, right? If they chuck some card here, he's going to get there first and be in really good shape. If they play in 7, he's going to play in 6 first and be in really good shape. So the only way for them to get there is to go in 3, and they don't have a card they want to put in 3. Everything in 3 is uncomfortable to stick there for one reason or another, either comboed or just so easily capturable while using up some power that might be useful. So anyways, I think he's such a specific player, and I keep saying that, but I don't know how else to describe it. And I think it's really cool to see. Because a move like this in 5 feels wrong to me, but is not actually a mistake. And that's something we're going to see him pull off in his games against me as well, where he made moves in squares I did not expect him to play, but I think they were good moves. Next to my starter, either capturing it or not capturing it didn't really matter. So we're going to boot up the next game. And again, this is just going to be a tie, but it's going to be a tie where I thought I was going to be able to press, and I couldn't at all. So I started 7, 4, 5, 4, 5, and 7, which he can address multiple ways, but I do threaten to block it in from 8. And so again, he is facing a starter he can take one way but not the other, and many players' instincts is to look for a way to set up. For instance, a move like this, I think would be a very standard type of reply. Right, something that says I can take you in 8, but I can't take you in 4, so I'm going to set up to make sure I can take you in 4 with something I can recapture both ways. Very standard type of move. But he doesn't do that. He says, I can take you one way and not the other, so maybe, as we saw last game, I'll just stick a card in the other square and make you block, and then find ways to block myself. But here, this doesn't make sense because this card isn't safe facing the corner, and last time it was, and I think that's very important. I have this 2, 7, 6, 3, and that means he has no card that can be safe facing the corner. So instead, he just takes it. And now, I have problems. If I recapture my card... Oh, I forgot to put on plus wall and same wall again. Excuse me, one moment. That was a mistake on my part. because they were off for the last game. If I recapture here, I have the 7 facing towards 5. I have no way to capture that back. He just takes. He's got a pretty big advantage here. This looks like a tough position for me to play. He has the same in 5 if he needs it. This looks really terrible for me. He also even has the option of playing something like this, though I don't think it's as good. But he has lots of good options here. This 7 facing towards 5 is really bad for me. Again, the specifics of my recapture really benefit this. So instead I go, okay, I can grab safety. I still do threaten to recapture in 4. And he finds another nice move, noting I've used up all my up power, and finds safety here, and I end up having to be pretty careful to tie this. And from a starter, I thought was going to be decent at applying pressure, and he found a way to play next to it that, again, really relied on the specifics of my cards to either set up this really favorable L, or, in the case of the game, to use up all my up power and just set up more. He now makes this big threat in 6, so I don't have time to grab the card and, I'd like to maybe at some point re-grab the card in 7, but I don't have time. I have to block 6. And from here, I do make my way to a tie. I couldn't combo in 2 because he combos back. I believe I ended up playing this way, and this is a tie. But again, it was a game where he immediately put pressure on me and didn't let me get at cards I expected to, because he kept finding ways to create threats and to not make my obvious moves work. And I think that's really the key to his style, and something he does very elegantly. So we've got one final game for you. This was another against me. I show this a little bit in another video that I don't think I've released yet, a little of this game. It's not quite the same move order out of the opening, but it is the same concept. It is this same playing in squares you might not expect and creating challenges for the opponent. So I made a starter I was really happy with, and with a specific plan. I knew he couldn't take me in 8. I'm the first turn player here. All these games after the first one, Villalva's the second turn player. And I knew he kind of had to set up against me in 5, and then I could hit him with the hammer and play this move. And he doesn't have a good move in 8 because I just combo it. And this position to me looked terrible for him because I also calculated his only way to capture this. I capture, and any capture he has, I combo. No, that's not the way I did it. The way I wanted to do it. What was the way I was... No, yeah. I do this, and if he takes it this way, I combo. And if he takes it this way, this still combos because it's a plus rather than a plus wall. And if he takes it this way, he has given up all side-to-side power. And I believe... Wait, what was my idea here? Yeah, I just go up 6-4, and he can't combo back with the 6 because I have a plus at the end. So I had seen both those moves are just losing. And so it seemed to me a really favorable position, but he sort of ended up with that same structure we've seen before, where he has a card next to my starter, in this case the 6-6-2-5, and that card is safe facing towards the wall, and he has a card in 5. And this comes up on some other rule sets, especially as rules disappear, this becomes a more common concept, but I think he's the preeminent user of it in games with things like plus wall on, of seeing a starter and just playing next to it with something strong facing the nearby corner, right? So he didn't play it this way, and this way might not be good, but you can sort of see the idea if he went here. And let's pretend he had a threat in 4, so I feel some need to block 4. Just gonna chuck a card there, giving him a combo, myself a combo in 5, and he just has to block 5, and suddenly the card in 8 is safe. And the card in 5, we could even imagine him doing something like this. And this probably doesn't work in specific. Okay, it really doesn't here because there's a combo there. But something, I mean, we can end up basically looking like the game from here. Where he takes these positions where you have the locked-in card, you have the secured card, but he has enough going on, and he has specifically made sure that card in 8 is safe. And it doesn't so much matter if the card in 5 is safe, because I'm not the one, the first turn player is not the one who's going to get the chance to play next to it first. So if it's safe one way and weak the other, that's okay. He'll make it work. And I think that's really cool and interesting. And there are a bunch of formations I think or setups he aims for a little differently than most players would. But this was an example that really jumped out at me as an interesting way of doing things. And if you look at this position where I thought I had trapped him, I think basically the only tie is this move he found in 8. And he's just very good at finding this type of move, and it's really cool and quite different from how other people are playing. So I hope you found the Villalva games interesting. I certainly did. I think the win over Piggyman is fantastic. And again, Piggyman is just about the hardest player to beat imaginable. Or at least currently playing randoms. He's got this ridiculously low losing rate. And really impressive to get a win there. And just really cool play overall. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the games. Hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope to do more videos like this, doing kind of deep dives into players and what they're doing that I think is interesting. I'm kind of pleased that I showed a great win, but then don't think it's that important to show further wins. Obviously, all these players will win a bunch of games. I want to show the games where they showed the coolest ideas. And if that ends up in a win, that's fantastic. But if it doesn't end up in a win, I still think the ideas are interesting. And also, I was ready to talk about the games where he played against me because I thought they were fascinating. I thought they were great games. So, cheers to Villalva, a really fascinating player.